Hello all, Stacy the Black Feather Intuitive. Welcome to Demystify the Divine, weekly readings and tools to connect. So excited to be seeing everyone today. I'm just going to move my screen a little bit here because I feel like I'm looking off to the side rather than looking directly at the camera. So hopefully this will help. So wishing everyone that it applies to a belated Mother's Day, hoping you are doing well and that you celebrated yourselves well this weekend. Let's get to it. For those of you who are just tuning in and you've never seen this before, it's a really cool thing that I do. I do sort of a general reading for the week. I do a word of the week, which lately has been turning into a phrase of the week. I sort of wax poetic about that and channel a message about that. Then I do a card pull with a tarot deck and an oracle deck, and we have feathers. And then after that, we do a segment, a really cool Q&A segment where we say, grab your decks and bring your own deck. And you're welcome to join us for that. And I would love to have you live on camera or even just over the phone, because what I like to do is look at the cards that you're pulling and help you to get a more specific message or to be able to individualize the general message and be able to apply it and make it work for you this week using your own deck. And it's an opportunity to learn how to read your cards, learn how to create a relationship with your cards. So if you're interested in doing this, please, I think he puts a link in the comments as well that you can click on, or you can just send him an email directly to kayaniproductions@gmail.com. And you just let him know that you're calling in about the Divine, Demystify the Divine show and that you'd like to be on. And we will put you in the waiting room. It's kind of this whole cool thing, and make sure you got your deck with you. And we'll pull some cards and ask some questions. So, all right. Grateful to be here today. Let's get started with what our word/phrase of the week is. So I'm going to kind of do my little channeling thing, close my eyes, go to my happy place, and let's see what our dream teams have to offer. All right, I'm getting sovereignty and divinity. And I feel like they want to talk about sort of the difference between these two words. Divinity can be used in many different ways. Of course, we think of divinity, we think sometimes religious studies, we think definitely we think in the spiritual realm of things. And when we think sovereignty, we're thinking rulers, kings and queens. And from a spiritual perspective, how I view sovereignty is birthright. It is my birthright as a being in this body, as a being on this planet at this time, to be able to access the energy that I was born with and to be able to use that energy out into the world. We are all born with superpowers, and we have the birthright to take up space. We have the birthright to breathe the air that we breathe and to choose to live the type of life that we choose to live. So I feel like the word of the week, or the words of the week, it's the sovereignty and the divinity. And it's really about, I am a spark of the divine, which means I am divine. I am divinity. I don't need to seek divinity outside of myself. I am divine, just as I am. I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm perfectly divine. And in that divinity, I have the right, the birthright to express that divinity, to express my aspect of the divine spark out into the world. It is my birthright to show up and express that in whatever ways I feel called to. And I am, when we're talking about the sovereignty, I am the king or the queen of my own domain. I am the emperor or the empress of my life. And we all are. And this isn't a situation of too many cooks in the kitchen makes a lot of broken eggs. This is a situation of, hey, when I'm living my divinity and I am in my birthright and I am listening to the guidance that's coming through, I know that things are going to work out because I'm fully in a state of trust, because there's nothing to fear, because I'm sovereign. I'm a sovereign being. I have the right to make these decisions for myself. And my decisions are not going to stop you from living your life and making your decisions. And that's the beauty of it. We all are sovereign beings. We all can step into that sovereignty and live our divinity without having to, of course, we're going to bump into one another. And sometimes we're going to, be in that place of supporting one another, but we don't necessarily have to, in order for me to live my sovereignty, you can't be sovereign. No, that's not how it works. We all have the ability to be uniquely whole, individually whole within ourselves, and then we can come together and collaborate, and then we can be individual again. So I feel like this week, the sovereignty and the divinity, it's not so much a message for the week as much as it's a reminder of who we are. And I feel like the message of the week, we'll see what comes through with the cards, but the message of the week I feel is going to be connected to our identities. When we're talking about sovereignty and divinity, there's definitely an identity piece there. Who am I in relation to that word? What does that word actually mean for me? Have I really thought about it in those ways? Or have I seen those words as, something that isn't me? It's outside of me. It's above me. It's unattainable. You want to kind of explore a little bit of that, because I feel like we are stepping in. Well, we're all in this change. We're all in this shift, and humanity's being rebirthed. Our identity is being reborn as a culture, as a race, as humanity. It's being rewritten. It's being rebirthed, and through that overall sort of global shift, it's also trickling down into our individual lives. So ask yourself that question: what does sovereignty mean to me? How do I apply sovereignty into my life? Do I apply sovereignty in my life? If the answer is no, I've never considered it, or I haven't thought about that, but that's interesting. If I get to be the queen of my domain, or the king of my domain, or the emperor, or the empress, well, damn, what have I been missing all these years? How do I want to step into that identity? Same with your divinity. How do you identify with your divinity? It's not some highfalutin thing out there that you have to be a priest or a pastor in order to be able to access that. It's just one term that we use. It's a label that we use, but we can also use it for our individual purposes. And so where do you feel your divinity the most in your life? How do you access that? How do you show up with that divinity in your life? So, all right, we're gonna pull a tarot card, and today we are using the Witch's Tarot from Ellen Dugan. This is a really cool deck. I was introduced to it. I don't know, it's been around for a while, but I was introduced to it last year. I want to say mid-year, and I was like, oh my God, where have you been all my life? All right. Oh, I love this. Okay. So our message is 10 of Pentacles. 10 of Pentacles is a great card. It has a lot of different meanings, and the one that's really standing out to me right now is heritage. So ancestry, ancestral healing, ancestral mapping, being aware of your ancestry, being aware of where you've come from. And how interesting that we were talking about sovereignty and divinity. And I was mentioning, the identity. How do we identify ourselves or interact with those words with ourselves? And the 10 of Pentacles this week, I feel, is saying you want to look at where you've come from. This isn't a situation where you want to delve into the past deeply and, dredge up baggage and all the rest of it. That's already happening naturally for all of us in many different ways. This isn't saying we're going to do more of that. This is saying, hey, take a look, be focused, be intentional around taking a look at where have I come from. And this can be your divine ancestry, your divine lineage. Where have I come from? Where are my origins? What are the things that I am drawn to? I'm going to share a quick little story. Ever since I was little, and my first memory was at 3 years of age, I was drawn constantly to Egyptian, anything that was Egyptian shows. There was a show with Leonard Nimoy, and I can't remember, I think it was called Ancient Civilizations. I remember on Sunday afternoons after church, we would sit and we would watch a bunch of different movies at my grandparents' home, and that was one of the shows, and I was glued to the TV at 3. Who cares about ancient civilizations at 3 years of age? Well, you couldn't pull me away from the TV because I was so drawn to that energy. And then, of course, the rest of my life, everything is, Egyptian stuff. So each of us has our own Egypt. Maybe for you, it is Egypt. Maybe you feel drawn to the Grecian community. Maybe for you, for some reason, you're really drawn to the Nordic energy in your life. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have that in your family heritage or history, but for whatever reason you're drawn to it. Pay attention to those things. Pay attention to those little obsessions that you get around a person that you've never met in your life, or a particular civilization. You're drawn to it for a reason, because it's part of your heritage. And the 10 of Pentacles is a card, when we look at it from the tarot card, it's a card of, oh my God, I've got everything that I set out to achieve, everything that I needed and wanted. I've got it all right here, and I'm abundant. I've got plenty in the bank, or plenty in the harvest to carry me through the winter. And I've got some left over that I can say, how do I want to reinvest this? And we're talking about Pentacle energy. It's the realm of the physical, the material, health, and wealth. And so I feel like for us this week, as I'm talking about, the identity and heritage, I feel like it's understanding that I have to kind of do a little bit of an awareness check about my heritage, because within that, I have all that I need. I have all of my resources. So sometimes we have so many questions and we don't really know where to go. Well, you go within. This is saying you're going to have the answers that you seek. You have the resources. You have them within, and you're going to bring them without. You're going to be able to manifest them or make them tangible, so that you understand why these questions are coming up, or why you're feeling a certain way, or why you're being led to or drawn to, a particular person or a particular area of the world, or maybe a particular job. So I feel like this card, it's less about sort of an overall message and more an invitation to really kind of look at, who am I becoming, and who am I becoming based on this divine heritage, or the sovereignty of myself, my person in my now. How is this going to apply to my life moving forward? Also, this card is full of green. And I feel like there's a lot of growth here. So I'm not even really talking actually about the actual true meaning of the card here. It's just intuitively what I'm getting. This week, we are all going to be very much in a growth period. And just like we are in the time of year that we're in springtime, where everything is blooming and blossoming, I feel like that's the energy of what is transpiring this week. But we want to keep in mind, it takes a lot of energy for those flowers to bloom and pop open. It takes a lot of energy for the grass to shoot up after the rain, right? We don't think about those things because those things just happen automatically, and they don't happen like you'd have to be watching it all the time in order to actually witness it. Whereas, like with flowers, I know sometimes, or seeds, you can go for weeks and not see anything. And then you wake up the next day, it goes from one day with nothing to the next day, you've got a plant there, or you've got a bloom. So it takes energy. So the message for us this week is understanding that, there's going to be a lot of growth, and it's going to be the kind of growth that happens after a rain, and the grass grows and you're like, damn, I just cut it. Now I got to go out and cut it again. It's that kind of energy, but you understand that takes work. That takes energy. You have it to put it out there. Or maybe the question for you is, oh my God, okay, there's some growth happening. Maybe I need to cut some things out of my schedule to allow for the growth to occur, so that I do have the energy, the extra energy to put towards this growth. The growth ultimately is going to be good for everyone. And I do feel that in the collective, everyone, and on an individual level, everyone is going to have growth that is going to be positive for them. And it's not going to be sad or uncomfortable necessarily, but it is going to take work and effort. So prepare yourselves for that this week. You need extra energy. So whatever you need to do, take a nap, schedule naps into your day. Maybe this is a good week to take some PTO. Maybe this is a good week to, I want to say, involve some recharge activities. So if you like to be creative and you find that fills your love cup, be a little bit creative. Maybe this is the week to set aside time to read a book that's been on your list for a while. Anything that's going to recharge or refill you, it's preparing you for the growth and the abundance that is literally right here for the taking. But we've got the extra work to do as a result. I love that message around the identity piece. I feel like that's really interesting. Of course, we're all going through this identity shift. We've been talking about it for a couple of years now, but this week in particular, there's really something there, something to it. And I feel like it is going to be tangible. We're all going to be able to witness it in our own lives as well as in sort of the collective. So that's very interesting. All right. Our Oracle deck today is Work Your Light Oracle from Rebecca Campbell. Love these cards. Kind of a fantastical vision of the world. And we've got Share Your Voice, Come Out of the Cave, Persecution, and Expression. So if we're going back to the divinity and the sovereignty, if you think about the kings and the queens, they certainly are not mousy. They certainly have no problems speaking their truth, laying down the law of the land. And it is honored. It is responded to. It is followed. So I feel like this is a come out of the cave. It's interesting that a lot of us are feeling that right now post-COVID. We're like, oh my God, give me freedom. Sunshine, woohoo! Let me get on a plane and go somewhere because I've been trapped for so long. It's time to come out of the proverbial cave, right? So no more are we hermiting. This isn't a time for hermiting. This is a time for sociability. This is a time for community. It's also a time for speaking our truth. And I want to say, when we're talking about the share your voice, I say speaking your truth, but the message really is share your voice this week. And sharing your voice means I don't necessarily have to speak in order to, get on a soapbox or to prove a point, but I do need to interact. And I do need to recognize that if I feel that I have something that I would like to contribute, I don't need to judge that. I just simply need to contribute and not stop myself or edit myself always. I feel like there's an energy of us, and I feel like this is connected to this growth spurt that we are in. It's learning that I do have something of value to offer. And in this world that we live in, we're constantly, even just this, we're on social media right now. And social media, you have to be so careful and considered about what you say and how you look and what you present. And it can be very daunting. There can be so much pressure in just allowing yourself to be yourself. There's so much energy that goes on up here to make sure that, how do I look? What is the presentation? How are people going to receive it? This is a message to say, you know what? Don't worry so much about all of that. Just share your voice. Don't edit yourself. Come out of the cave. Come into the light. Anyone who connects with your message and hears your voice and hears what you have to share, and they connect with it, they're going to understand it. They're going to receive it in the way that they need to receive it. And anybody who doesn't, the message wasn't meant for them, or they're not ready to receive it. So no editing of yourself. Speak your truth. Persecution and expression. The persecution is huge. How many times have we seen that with, and I'm not making a judgment on cancel culture, I'm just bringing it up as a perfect analogy, that people get persecuted for speaking their truth. Sure, I may not agree with what you say, but I believe that you have the right to say it. And if I don't like what you say, I can choose to not watch you. But I don't have to necessarily cut you out of everybody's life. That's a choice for me to make. Or likewise, you're saying stuff that I really absolutely love. Sure, I'm going to share it with my friends and let them know that, hey, you know, there's this amazing, you know, person that has so much to say or so much to offer. And, you know, 3 of the friends might really enjoy it. And the 4th friend is like, who the hell is this? Right? It's like, okay, different strokes for different folks. So we got to get rid of this idea of persecution. It's more understanding that everybody has the right to share their voice. It's up to you how you choose to receive it and how you choose to interact with it or engage with it or not. And that is everybody's sovereign right. That's your sovereign right to make those choices. God, I love how everything comes full circle in these cards and these readings. So pay attention to your lineage, your heritage. This is not necessarily your bloodline heritage. This is the spiritual, the energetic, the divinity, the spark of the divine that is you. Where do you feel you come from? Where do you feel you lean towards? What information does your soul crave more of? What fills your spiritual love cup? These things, the knowledge of these things is important to where we are going. And that's that identity piece, shifting our identity as a collective and then trickling down into our individual lives. All right, let's pull a feather from the feather jar. Well, geez, I can't wait to see what the message is going to be with this. We've had a lot of like...
I thought I was going to do it's time to pull a feather.
All right, well, that's awesome. It's time to pull a feather from John. I love that. You got to do that more often. Just do it. Interrupt me because, you know, I'll just talk and talk and talk and talk. It's the Gemini moon in me. And you're a Gemini, so you get it. All right, our feather today, folks, is paint your story. So I find it's interesting that we're pulling this feather today because we are talking about identity. We're talking about diving deep into our heritage or our, you know, our lineage of things. We've talked about the identity and the growth piece in terms of where we're at. And we've talked about sharing your voice. When we share our voice and we express ourselves, one of the ways that we can express ourselves is through our own story. You know, it's not so much the what story do you tell yourself, it's more what are the stories that you are sharing about yourself out into the world. And you get to dictate what that is. As you're sharing your voice, you get to choose what you're sharing versus what you're not. And the paint your story implies action. It implies I'm creating my story. I'm looking at the blank canvas that is before me, or maybe I'm looking at a canvas that has some stuff on it and I'm saying, okay, do I want to work with what's already here? Do I want to whitewash it over and start from scratch? Do I want to get a new canvas? And how do I choose to paint my story? Because it's all about my identity. Who am I now? Who am I becoming? I have choice. I am sovereign. I am a spark of the divine. So that means I can do whatever the schmel I want. Do you think there's anybody that's telling the divine you can't do this and you can't do that, and the divine actually listens to that? The divine is the divine. It just is what it is. It does what it does. So if you are a spark of the divine, that means you can do that too. So paint your story and be creative. It's on an orange feather, which is our sacral chakra. And that is our ocean of emotion. That is the seat of our creativity. And so I feel like the creativity is a big part of this identity shift. So if you're looking for action steps to take in relation to how you're connecting to your identity, plan to do some painting or plan to do something creative that gets you into that creative flow. We need flow right now because the energies are so wonky that everything is sort of coming up to the surface. There's a lot of pain out there. There's a lot of things that are just going awry and not going according to plan. And it can be very heavy. It can feel very hopeless. We're like nothing I ever do seems to be working out. Like, why is it that I feel like I'm constantly in limbo? We are and we're not. It's all part of the process of that rebirth. It's rebirthing the new identity. So take charge of it. You have the ability to take control and paint your own story and share that story in any way you see fit. Show up as yourself. All right. Holy cannoli. I feel like just a ton of stuff is just like through me. So I don't know how that resonated with all y'all, but that was intense for me. So let's shift now and let's go into some Q&A. I want you to grab your decks and let's take an opportunity right now to, I'm gonna create, I'm gonna receive, I'm not creating. Well, maybe I am creating. I'm painting my own questions today. I'm gonna receive a couple of questions and we can do some card pulls. And basically, again, the card pull is to help you guys in your own way to be able to deepen the message for yourself in an individual way so that you know how to apply that and how that's going to show up for you. So, John, I turn it over to you for a couple minutes while I divine these fabulous questions that we're going to do here. I think you're muted.
No, that was just to test and see if you were listening to me.
Yeah, I was.
I know you love my new tapestry behind me. It's giving me so much energy. But hello, everybody who has returned weekly as you do every Monday. We are so happy to see you here. Special thanks to Richard Zirk and Ragu. Also, I just had your name. I don't know where it went. Tri-Red is here. Thank you, Tri-Red, for loving the tapestry. And Christy is here, I believe. And Brooke Burns, all of you, welcome. If you'd like to come on, look in the chat. There's a link there from Stacy. You can join, or also you can email me. The quickest way is to click the link, but we'll accept you either way. Tri-Red will still read your cards, trust you and true. I am holding out that one day you will appear on the show so I can see who my long-lost brother is in you, Tri-Red. Also, after the Q&A, we have some promotions coming up, and Stacy will talk about memberships. So it's some exciting times here at the Black Feather Intuitive. And I will hop out of the way and leave it to Stacy because I'll take over the whole show and talk for the next hour.
That's why we have Gemini in our charts, dude. So
I know, right? 44 is coming up. 44 is coming up.
Love it. I love it.
I was telling Brooke Burns in the chat that retrograde got the best of me last week.
Oh no!
Got the best of me, but we're here. I'm retrograding the retrograde.
I love that. Yeah, I've had you and I were talking about that earlier too, and I've had just, I swear to God, retrograde. So for those of you who don't necessarily fully understand all of the retrograde, because I didn't for a long time either. Mercury retrograde specifically, all the planets go into retrograde, but Mercury retrograde in particular always affects communication and technology. And it always appears in the sky like it's going in reverse. That's why we call it a retrograde. And it has a shadow period. So for about 5 days before the actual day that the planet goes into retrograde, and 5 days after the planet goes back into its regular state or moving forward, there's a shadow period where we definitely can start to feel the effects. And then the effects are in full force. Well, I swear to you, I'm not saying that I'm all that unique, but it feels like that because OMG, for a whole month prior to, and this is not the first time it's happened. This seems to be a kind of a regular occurrence. Not consistent with every Mercury retrograde, but a lot more often than not. It's like the month before, I'm in a freaking retrograde. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Retrograde isn't for like another month. Why am I having all of this insanity happening?
You're more in tune than the rest of us. That's why.
Maybe, but I don't know. I'm just like, okay, you know what, universe? I am so ready for things to just work. Just make it work, okay? Make it work, make it smooth. I don't want to have to put anything extra into this. I just want to show up. And of course, the universe laughs. Laughs. Ha ha, Stacy, that's so funny. It's so funny how you have no patience, and we continue to give you these lessons to help you with your patience. That's really what it's about. All right, so the two questions that came up for me, the first is, what card can give you supportive strength to connect with your sovereignty this week? And the second card is, what action step can you focus on to help you with the growth that we talked about this week? So one card is going to give us supportive strength, and the other card is going to give us an action to apply to help us with with our focus on the growth and being open to receiving that. Typically, I pull cards for myself. I'm feeling like I've talked a lot today, and it sounds like there's a few people that are in the chat and having questions. So unless someone has objection, I'll just open it up to people's questions. Raghu, hey, how are you?
Hi, Stacey. Hi, John. How are you?
Great. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
How was Minneapolis? Good to see you too.
Great. We had a fabulous time.
I love it. So Raghu has two beautiful grandbabies, and they live all the way in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, which to me, Minnesota is very cold. Very cold. So when he said he was going away, I was like, ooh, like I just can't even imagine going there right now. It's just too cold. I'd have to
visit in the summer. Visit in the summer.
Exactly. There are certain places I'll only visit in the summer. All right, Raghu. So pull your first card. What card can give you supportive strength to connect with your sovereignty this week?
I'm pulling from the Oracle deck, Goddess Guidance from Doreen Virtue.
Gotcha.
First one is Aphrodite, Inner Goddess. Awaken the goddess within you through dance, self-care, and appreciating your divinity. It's funny.
Divinity.
What divinity comes into picture?
Yes, that is so perfect. Okay, so I love that picture. Take a look at that picture and tell me the first thing you're drawn to when you look at that picture.
The bliss and peace in her face.
Okay, so the facial expression. So the bliss
Right.
and peace in the face. When we're asking the question, what gives you supportive strength to connect with your sovereignty? It's bliss and peace. So this week, you really want to be working on focusing on making time for, and I'm going to say, dare I say, not doing anything that doesn't bring you bliss and peace. So if you notice, you know, as you're kind of going through your day-to-day stuff and maybe you're focusing on routine, if you start to notice that, okay, I feel like I have to do this, or this is an obligation, or okay, this is the routine, I got to get through all of this and then I can be happy. You want to stop and you want to say, wait a second. Maybe I'm going to switch up the routine today. Maybe I'm not going to do that routine, or maybe I'm going to do it out of order, or maybe I'm going to find ways to bring more bliss and peace into the routine that I'm doing. That's going to support you, because when you're connecting to that sovereignty, it's all about believing and knowing that you have the right to be here. You have the right to be happy. And we live in a world where we've got all of these conditions. Right? I've got to do this and I've got to do that in order to be able to eat, in order to be able to pay the bills, and in order to be able to be liked by this person, and in order to be able to be included, I've got to dance through all of these hoops. Your sovereignty is stepping up right now. Your divinity is saying, it's all a bunch of BS. Let's focus on what you're really here to be. And the divinity is here to feel joy and bliss and peace and to express all of that. So that's how you're going to be able to support yourself. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
I also was drawn on that card to the peace dove. I'm always drawn to the peace doves. That's one of my favorite birds. If I had a favorite bird aside from the phoenix that's mythical, it would be the peace dove. And I feel like the peace dove is really a symbol of freedom. So I feel like this is well for you when, especially because the word divinity was in there. Divinity brings you freedom. So embracing that I am a spark of the divine, which means I am divine, which means there are no rules. I have no limitations. And so what is it that I really want to do? Not what am I obligated to do,
Right.
that I want to do.
That makes so much sense.
I love that for you. Second question, what action step can you focus on with the growth that we talked about this week? What action step can you focus on?
So I got Green Tara. Start delegating. Ask others, including me, to help you instead of trying to do everything by yourself.
Well, that's a perfect message. So of course, I'm going to ask you to look at the picture and tell me what you're drawn to mostly. But before you do that, I'm going to say the answer is so perfect. That's what you want to focus on, is understanding. And it ties in with what we were just talking about with your first card pull, is if I feel like I'm having to do things all the time and it's out of obligation or a sense of well, I've always been doing it before and there's no one else that can do it for me, then you're going to run into a situation where there's no opportunity for bliss.
Right.
So, and there's no peace because you're constantly running on empty, or you're using fuel to do things that don't bring you any joy. So this is very interesting. In order for you to focus on the growth, this is the perfect message. Delegate. Delegate.
Yeah, I have to find somebody to delegate what I'm doing.
Yeah, I don't think your wife is going to be too cool with, I'll just take on all your responsibilities today. But let's talk about that for a second. So, me being a single gal, it's me in the boys, right? It's me and the fur boys. So if it's going to get done in the house, it's me. It's nobody else is going to come in and do it, right? So when we're talking about delegation, we can also look at that in terms of, what do I absolutely need to do right now, and what can wait?
Right.
What can I put off to tomorrow? What can I, how can I prioritize my joy and my bliss or my peace? And I feel like that's how you want to maybe approach it. It's less about, necessarily farming it out, and more about how important is it to get it done right now.
I'm drawn to her smile on her face. If you see, she has a beautiful smile on her face.
Yes, she does. Very serene.
Right. I'm drawn to smile on her face.
So what is it about the smile that you're drawn to?
She is very happy with herself.
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
from that. So I have to understand. I have to be happy with myself.
You got it. That's the focus. That growth, that's what's going to be your growth this week. Situations are going to show up that are going to give you an opportunity to choose to be happy with yourself, or to find that happiness within yourself, and to not seek it from outside of yourself. That's where the satisfaction lies.
I keep saying there is no such thing as right. There is no such thing as wrong. In an absolute sense, everything is relative.
Yes.
I have to start implementing that myself.
You and me both. I do my best to practice what I preach, and it's funny because I'll be saying things to clients, and I'll be like, okay, this is also a message for me, Stacey. You need to practice what you're preaching right now. I'm feeling it. Like my universe is like frying pan to the head while I'm passing on the information. So yeah, you're right on the money with that. That's perfect.
Thank you, Stacey.
That was great. I loved seeing you. Love the cards that you picked. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you, John.
Raghu says there's no right and wrong. He should see some of my math, and then he'll change. He'll change.
Yeah, there's no right and wrong, except for math. I'm right there with you. I'm not a math gal myself.
John, I'm a math person. I'm an engineer.
Oh,
a math major.
All right, thanks, Raghu.
Yeah, I was at the restaurant the other day, and they were asking for, of course, the tip, right? And so I'm looking at the amount, and I know what I want to tip, and I'm like, I just want to make this a cool $100, and it was like $73 or something like that, and whatever change, and I'm like, okay, I'm 2 glasses of wine in, and I just want to make it an even 100. I don't know what this means, so I just wrote down 100, and in the tip I said math. I was like, okay, we're good. So I put the onus on you. You got to do a little extra work for your tip, but at least you get the tip, right?
Oh, you set the restaurant. I am so hungry. I haven't eaten today. I think I'm going to make me an omelet. And speaking of omelets, let's welcome Denver.
Hi, Denver. Nice to see you. Apparently you're an omelet today.
All right. I'll take it. I'll take what I could get.
I love it. All right, Denver. I love that you're coming on. And by the way, thank you for pointing out that glitch that we had on my social media about my new moon musings. I really appreciate that, because I was totally like, oh yeah, we'll get there, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, you don't understand. There's something wrong with your timing. I was like, oh my God. So thank you for that. Sure. All right, let's pull a card. What card can give you supportive strength to connect with your sovereignty this week?
Well, I have to say, I don't really know how to shuffle these cards very well.
Oh, so I love this, because a lot of people are like this. I grew up in a card family, so like I can do the bridge, I can shuffle really naturally. What you can do is you can literally put it on the table, you break it up into 3 sections, and you put them back in a different order, and you can pick the top one. It can be very simple, or you can spread them out in a fan and just pull the one you're called to.
Okay. Okay. I will also just say the deck that I'm pulling from. I don't think I've seen anybody with this deck before. It's the Sacred Forest.
Yes, Denise Lynn. It's in my it's on my wish list in Amazon right now. So I don't know it either. So this is exciting.
I got it at Quail Ridge Books.
Excellent. Supporting the independents. Good man.
Well, the card I got here is Enchanted Fern Grotto, the card for refuge.
Oh, I love that. That's gorgeous. Okay, so take a look at the image and tell me, actually for you, tell me what the image evokes for you.
A little bit of fantasy. She has like the elf ears. There's some galactic coloring, and she's kind of, in her hand here is a portal to the unicorn realm or something of that. So to me, it gives off a lot of fantasy. I guess it's pretty
fantasy vibe.
Yeah, pretty dreamy. But I'm pretty unfamiliar with this card. I've interacted with a lot of the cards in the deck, but never this one.
Well, this is perfect. I'm so glad that she popped up for this segment. So when we're asking what can give you supportive strength, not only do we have the keyword refuge, but I love that the card is speaking to you from a fantasy perspective. So how do you connect with your sovereignty? By going into the fantasy world. And I'll take it as far as saying, everyone, I'm a huge sci-fi and fantasy girl, but the one that not everybody is. So the one that everyone tends to know about is Lord of the Rings. So when you go into, okay, what can I use to strengthen myself or strengthen my sovereignty? Often when you're watching these things, you identify with certain aspects of it. And yeah, they've got weird elf ears, but there's a part of you that says, you know what, that's not so weird to me. I don't know why, but I feel like maybe I've had those ears before, right? There's a certain level of the fantasy is not necessarily always fantasy. And I love that you pulled this card because we have been talking about the identity that we're shifting into and how do you connect to your lineage, your spiritual lineage. So for you, the strength is in diving into the fantasy. Sure, you can watch a fantasy movie, but I feel like for you, it's more about the realm of the imagination. And if you get a dream with an elf with ears, for example, or you're in a dream and you're floating around in the galactic community, there's some truth in that. You want to explore that a little bit deeper because it's talking about your origins. It's sharing something else about you that, no, we can't prove it, but man, oh man, you can feel it as though it is your truth at your core. So that's going to support you in embracing oh, hell yes, I have the right to be here. And I'm here for a reason. And so I'm not going to let a second of that pass me by. I'm going to use that to allow me to really fully step into what my heart tells me I want to do here, rather than the obstacles of shoulda, woulda, coulda, right? Or if I do this, then somebody's going to judge me. So I feel like that's where, and Ragu had that, we were talking about liberation, had that piece of, I feel like that's applicable to you as well, that there's a certain level of you looking for some liberation it's almost like you need permission to just be who you are. And this is going to help you with that. This is going to give you that strength. So, and the refuge, when we talk about refuge, it's taking a rest. It's finding a place that is sacred to you, finding a place where not everybody can find you and knock down the door, say, hey, I need this, I need that, I need the other thing. It's no, okay, I'm, do not disturb, do not call, do not disturb. I'm there for an hour. So I encourage you also to go out in nature this week and find a place of refuge. That's going to help you to really connect. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Second card, what action step can you focus on in terms of the growth that is coming this week?
Oof. All right. Well, let's see which one of these is speaking to me.
Yeah.
All right. I got Purity, the unicorn.
Oh my that. And that's the second time you mentioned unicorn, even though there wasn't a unicorn on the other card. I love that. So that actually is really speaking to your, I feel like it's speaking to your sovereign identity, your divinity, but it's also speaking to, when we're talking about, like, I feel like it's the unicorn, it's the uniqueness. So the action step, what was the key word?
Purity.
Purity. So I love purity because, and I always see snow. I always connect snow with purity, because when you have a snowfall and you walk out after that snowfall, everything, the sound is dampened, everything is quiet, especially at night, and you can see the stars and there's no sound. It wipes the slate clean. Well, we're looking at unicorns. Unicorns are white. And so there's that purity, but there's also that unique ability. So this is the action step. I feel like for you, the growth is coming. It's let me clear the slate. Let me start fresh, but let me start with a more unique approach. Let me look at this from a completely different perspective than the way that I have approached it in the past, in any way, shape, or form in the past. And I'm hearing for you specifically this week, you're going to receive a couple of downloads that are going to be, I feel like, almost instantaneous, that are going to give you what that unique perspective is going to be. It's just going to be a sudden aha moment. You're going to say, wow, I never considered it in that way before. And you're not going to hear it from somebody. You're not going to be watching it on TV. It's literally going to be a download that gets dropped into your head, and it's going to shift the perspective entirely. And that opens you up to receiving the growth that's coming through. Just getting that download for you today.
Yeah.
So the purity, being conscious and intentional about looking at those areas in your life that feel and hearing overwhelming or overwhelmed, and clearing the slate. Purity, bringing the unicorn energy to it.
Yeah. Well, I really love to ruin a fresh slate of snow. When it snowed here earlier in January, my roommate and I went out at like 2 a.m. and just ruined all of it.
I love it.
Just ran around in circles. So.
And
yeah.
it brought you joy. It brought you bliss, right?
Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. I have a lot of videos of myself kicking snow over the years. Yeah.
I love that. Well,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. I always love being able to see people face to face. So sending you lots of love.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right. You can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
I did it right, even though I didn't get cool points for spelling sovereignty correctly. All right. So the wonderful Tri-Red says his first card is the Lovers.
Oh, that's a great card, Tri-Red. So Lovers is the sort of reflection. It's like a mirror, and you're looking into the reflection of yourself, and what is that telling you? So what card can give you supportive strength to connect with your sovereignty? It's looking in the mirror. It's looking within yourself and recognizing those characteristics, those strengths that you have that are a bit queenly or kingly or sovereign-like. You want to think about personal power, taking back your power, stepping into your power. And even though the power isn't specifically connected to the Lovers card, I'm hearing that for you this week is that, that it's giving you that supportive strength. The Lovers is giving you the strength. You're gaining the strength by looking at yourself and then calling out those characteristics that are powerful, that make you feel powerful, where you recognize, oh yeah, when I don't always feel powerful over here, but when I did this, or in this situation, I handled it in this way, I felt better, or I felt more powerful, or I felt more on the ball. That's when you're embracing your sovereignty. And I'm hearing for you, there's going to be 2 incidents this week in particular, and they're going to be super obvious, where you're going to be like, okay, I have a choice here to either stand in my power or to give away my power. And I feel like this reading is going to come back on you, and you're going to say, okay, no, this is a time for me to own my king or my queen, and to fully embrace that, or my emperor or my empress. I love the emperor and the empress because they don't care. They rule differently than kings and queens, right? There's a slight difference there. Sometimes it's a little dictatory. We don't necessarily want that. But when you're talking about your own sovereignty, sometimes it is about, I don't need your opinion. to do what I know I need to do for me. And you know what? If it's wrong, if it goes bad, or if there's something bad that happens, I own it because I chose it. But if I let you make a decision for me and it goes south, then I'm questioning, you know what? I knew that it was going to work out better that way. You had to have that experience in order to own your own sovereignty. So I feel like that's a great one for you. What was the second card?
I'm laughing because the first card is the Lovers and the second card is the Fool. So,
oh, I love that.
So we go from the Lovers to the Fool. That just sounds.
It's all good though. So here's the Fool, and I don't know why they call it the Fool all the time, but the Fool is kind of like it's supposed to be whimsical. It's supposed to be it's the beginning of the major arcana series or the arcana cards. It's the beginning of a journey where you have no expectations. You're packing light. You don't really know what you're going to be walking into. Everything is brand new. So what action step can you take to focus on the growth coming up this week? You couldn't have picked a better card for this question because it's approaching it from the Fool's perspective. And if we look at it from when we're talking about sovereignty and court cards and things like that, the Fool was the court jester, right? The Fool was the one that made everybody laugh. The Fool was the one that always kind of looked a little, I want to say, like people used to call them the idiot. I mean, we have bastardized the name or the meaning of that word to be nasty and mean, but where its origins are, where it came from, it really meant someone who is goofy, someone who is embracing the goofier side of things and can make people laugh. Because in those times, there really wasn't a whole lot to laugh about. So yeah, the court jester or the Fool would come in and the king would be like, oh, thank God there's something humorous here because I've just been dealing with, all state secrets and, making big plans and all this stuff. And it's heavy. So for you, the action step you can take is being open, not having any preconceived notions or ideas about what this growth is going to bring you, being open to receiving the growth and allowing it to take you where it wants to take you and having some fun with it. Not taking life so seriously, having a sense of humor about how things are showing up in your world and showing up in your life. So you could not have picked a more fitting card energetically for that action step. So thank you so much for submitting that. That's perfect.
And we're going to do one favor today. Faithful watcher Christy is sitting in the doctor's office waiting room, and she says, please pull one card for me.
Oh, absolutely. Did she say whether she wants a tarot or an oracle?
I'm going to pick for her because I love her so much. So we're going to give her an oracle card.
I love it. All right. Christy, let's see what we're going to get for you today. And I'm going to pull the action card for you. This is the action step card that you can focus, that can help you to focus on the growth coming this week. All right, Christy. Oh, beautiful. Unbound, releasing soul patterns, contracts, and past lives. So this is very much, I want to say, kind of like a Phoenix card, but there's also an energy of release. It's like I'm literally just letting everything go. And in that process of letting everything go, I am unbound. I am limitless. I am no longer in a situation where someone has a hold on me or something has a hold on me. So this is a great action step to help you focus on the growth. It's letting go of all of the stories that you've been hanging on to, letting go of all of those responsibilities that you have been, I want to say, carrying for a long time. And I feel like the exercise you're going to be doing is, in your mind, you're playing the game of, so what if I just didn't show up for work today? What if I just didn't go grocery shopping today and I just went to the restaurant? Or what if I just decided to not follow the plan? What if I decided to make every action step that I take today something different and unique than anything I've ever done before? And obviously we know logically what's going to happen if you don't show up for work. There's going to be some level of consequence. I'm not suggesting you go and you do that, but you want to play the game in your mind, because when you play the game in your mind, all of a sudden you are able to fantasize. You no longer have these chains of limitation around you, and in your imagination you're able to kind of say, ooh, that would feel so good if I went and I feel like an ice cream sandwich, so I'm going to go to the ice cream shop. And you can fantasize. You let go of all of these perceived restrictions and it allows the mind to go free. And then from there, you can say, okay, well, you know, here's what I would do if I just didn't show up for work today, but that's really not realistic. But in my little fantasy, in my little imagining, where I was unbounded and tapped into this, I was like, oh my God, my body wants an ice cream sandwich. Well, you know what? After work, or maybe on my lunch break, I'm going to go to the blah, blah, blah store where I know I can get the freaking ice cream sandwich, and I'm going to enjoy every second of it. And you wouldn't normally have thought to go and get yourself the ice cream sandwich until you allowed yourself to be unbounded. So the action step you can take to focus on the growth is to remove limitations so that you can allow yourself to receive more information and receive, I want to say that what the universe wants to present to you as opportunities that you're not even aware of it. And we all do this. We close ourselves off to it because we're so focused on the to-do list. We're so focused on the responsibility. Here's what I have to do. So this is going to help you to shift your identity entirely to open to the growth that is coming this week. It's going to help you to release that, the limitation, the perceived limitation, and to go into that space of, I'm literally just all this baggage, this suitcase that I've been carrying around with me for so long that is so heavy. Oh, God, that feels good, right? It's giving ourselves permission to just let that shit go and do something, replace that with something that's more fun, more freeing, lighter, not something that you have to carry around with you. So I hope that message makes some sense to you. I was happy to pull a card for you today. All right. Anyone else today, John?
No, that is it for today.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, so much for tuning in, for joining. I love that we had so many live participants today and participants in the comments, sending everyone so much love. I want to just drop a little tidbit. This is a little taste. You guys are the first to hear it. I haven't said this to anyone. I have created not one, typical in Stacey fashion, in my A-type personality, go, go, go. I'm creating 2 membership services that we are going to be dropping in the next couple of months. And I got to look at my paper because, of course, I get fancy with names and then I can't remember everything. So the first one, if you're into the Archangels and you like to know more about Archangels, I've created the Archangel Passion Project.Elevate your connection. So it's going to be a monthly membership service for a very low fee, and it's going to have an angel number attached to it. You're going to get all sorts of stuff. You're going to get weekly engagement, and there's going to be some live stuff in there. There's going to be some posts. There's going to be some pre-record, but all things Archangel and through the Black Feather Intuitive. And then for those of you who are on your ascension path, you're awakening, and you maybe are feeling some of your psychic gifts and abilities. Maybe you're a person who just is really open and sensitive to the energies out there in the world. We've got Ignite Your Wings, Wisdom for Awakening. And so this is going to be structured in a similar way to the Archangels. The difference is that we are going to be talking about energy. We're going to be doing some card pulls. We're going to be working with the feathers. We're going to be talking a little bit about, sort of the astrology of where things are at. And my Phoenix Rising event will be involved in that as well. So lots of funness. So I'm just putting this out there to wet your whistle, to put it in the back of your mind. I'm going to be talking about it a little bit more in the coming months. Not quite sure. We haven't even pulled a release date yet, but wanted to plant some seeds. I'm really, really excited about putting these out there because it's going to be a great way for all of us to, I want to say, connect and maintain that connection on a more consistent basis. Thanks so much, guys. Sending everyone love. Thank you, Wingman John, for a fabulous show.
Keone!
Great week. Take care. See you later.